invite your attention to St. Luke chapter 9, verses 1 through 6. St. Luke chapter 9, verses 1 through 6. And when someone found it, I'm going to ask you to stand up and read that in a loud voice. That's St. Luke chapter 9, verses 1 through 6. Who would like to stand and read for us, please? Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Then Jesus called the 12 together and gave them power and authority over all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal. He said to them, take nothing for your journey, no staff, nor bag, nor bread, nor money, not even an extra tunic. Whatever house you enter, stay there and leave from there. Wherever they do not welcome you as you are leaving that town, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them. They departed and went through the villages, bringing the good news and curing diseases everywhere.
Amen. Thank you so very much. I would invite your attention to this chapter here. I had a rough time this week when the administrative assistants called and said, do you have the sermon title? The sermon title. God wasn't speaking. And so I stayed all day Thursday in prayer and then slept some as well. God didn't say one word. Then Friday, not a word. Early Saturday morning, I went here, but God has spoken.
All right. Gotta wait on it.
I want to deal with the subject, dealing with rejection.
Wow. All right.
Dealing with rejection. Getting over rejection is one of the most difficult things we have to do in life. At the end of the day, none of us in life like to be rejected. Saints, it is hurtful and harmful when you realize what you want does not want you.
Have mercy.
You applied and you didn't get in. You dreamed about it, but it never showed up. You prayed about it, but it never happened. What you really wanted didn't want you. And you were still carrying the baggage from that experience that happened 20 years ago.
Help us, Father.
And there's nothing that hurts or harms like being rejected. Having a door slammed in your face can alter your life. In the text of Luke chapter 9, Jesus is trying to prepare his disciples how to get over rejection. Jesus gave his disciples power and authority as he has, so that they could do the same work that he was doing. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus says, I send you out as sheep among wolves. The reality is that some of the wolves look like sheep. And there are those who look like they got your back only to stab you in your back.
Have mercy.
Every smiling face ain't your friend.
All right, go ahead.
Everybody in your corner ain't got your back. Everybody in the crowd ain't on your side. But look what he says in verse 5 of our text, Luke chapter 9. Jesus said, whosoever will not receive you when you go out into the city, shake the very dust from your feet for a testimony against them.
All right.
Jesus wants to know that the world will be full of people with smiling faces and not open doors, but only to stab you in your back. There are going to be moments in your life where you're going to be rejected, where people don't accept you, where people don't believe in you. Jesus wanted his disciples to know you've got to get over being rejected.
All right.
You're going to apply and you're going to be turned down. You're going to dream for it, but it's not going to happen. You're going to pursue it and not achieve it. You're going to want it and never get it. Doors will be closed. People will not receive you. Saints, let me give you 4 things that Jesus gave his disciples of how to deal with rejection, how to deal with closed doors, how to deal with that does not want you. Jesus says, point number 1, be cautious of your connections.
All right.
How about look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, be cautious of your connections.
That's right.
Be careful about who you connect yourself to. You can't just hook up with every Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. Everybody is not worthy of being in relationship or in connectivity with you. As they say in hip-hop culture, who you're running with, you got to watch who you run with.
All right.
You can't bounce and kick it with everybody. You've got to be careful with connecting yourself to people who are not worthy of who you are. You must have an appreciation of what you bring to the table.
That's right.
In Matthew chapter 7, Jesus puts it this way. He says, don't cast your pearls before swines. So you got to know when you're dealing with a bunch of swines. You can't appreciate, swines can't appreciate your pearls. You got to know when people can't appreciate your gifts and talents and graces and beauty that you have to bring to the table.
All right.
The real problem is that we don't have enough appreciation for the giftedness that God has blessed us with. You don't understand the value of God and what God has given you. So before you hook yourself up with anybody, you need to do a self-assessment to know your value. It's not arrogancy, but it's just awareness.
All right.
I know who I am, and I know whose I am, and I know that greater is he that is within me than he that is within the world.
All right.
I know what God has given me. So when you have some self-awareness of your giftedness, that prevents you from hooking up yourself with any and everybody that comes along. You can't hook up with every Joe Blow that comes along. Know your connectivity. Don't hook up just with anything and anybody, but know who you're running with. Point number 2, learn to brush off the bitterness. How about look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, learn to brush off.
Learn to brush off
the bitterness.
the bitterness.
Now, can I teach you? I might holler after a while. You know, we South Berliners, we always got to holler when we end the sermon. That's just us in our background.
Go ahead. Yes, Lord.
Now, here's the problem with being rejected. Rejection brings a sense of offense to my life. How could they not want me? How could they not want this? What's your problem? The offense is the person or thing didn't want us. And don't let the person or the thing choose someone else. How did she get that job? Child, you know I wouldn't be caught dead to do what she did to get that job in that position. when I have been rejected. Now watch this. Offense always leads to bitterness. And bitterness always leads to anger. You can always tell people who haven't gotten over their bitterness and their anger, because 20 years later, they're still talking about it. The conversation can be about the weather, and they'll always convert back to what happened to them in their life. But listen, Jesus says, if someone doesn't want you, don't receive you. If they send you a rejection letter, they won't take you in. Listen to what Jesus says. He says, brush off that stuff and just walk out, so that bitterness does not set in. When you don't allow it to rest in your spirit, you are testifying against them. I remember one of the roughest times that we had when we were young, good-looking parents was with my youngest son, Brandon. He had the tendency to use the water closet, the reciteria, and wouldn't flush the commode. You know how kids do. And so one day we were out at the restaurant, I think it was Red Lobster, and he went and used the water closet. And he said, Daddy, it doesn't have a flush handle. What do you do? I said, well, son, it doesn't work like it does at the house. These commodes are on sensors. And when you use it and walk away, it'll flush itself. All I'm trying to do is tell somebody, if you walk away from the situation, it'll flush itself.
Go ahead, Pastor.
And you can get rid of it. Because they thought that by closing the door, they would make you lie down and die. But you got to use it as a testimony against them. Brush off your bitterness. Be cautious of your connection. Now here's point 3, and we're almost through. Learn to take the loss. How about look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, learn to take the loss. Now let me tell you why nobody will shout on that. Because rejection is an offense to my pride.
Yes.
Now here it is. It is tough to be gifted by God and still be rejected. Because pride can't understand why the door is closed. I have the credentials. I have the degrees. I look all right. I got it going on, as a matter of fact. How could they not want me? Pride says, I am too gifted to not get what I want. Pride believes if you want it, it should want you. So pride says, I'm not going to walk out until I understand why I didn't get it. And pride will hold you hostage. You have to learn how to take the loss. Every job won't be prosperous. Every relationship won't work. Every friendship won't last forever. One of the greatest things you got to learn to do, and that is to take the loss. How about take your neighbor and say, neighbor, take the L. Take the loss. Just walk away. Be cautious of your connections. Brush off bitterness and learn how to take the loss. Now here is the shouting part. And those of you who don't like to shout, here's the celebratorial part. Perceive another possibility.
All right.
How about tell your neighbor, say neighbor?
Neighbor.
Perceive another possibility.
Another possibility. That's right.
Look at what it says in verse 6 that was read by Job. Will somebody stand up and read verse 6 in our text? That last verse, verse 6 of our text. We're still in chapter 9, verse 6 to that. Yes, would you read it? You want to read it for us, please?
They departed and went through the villages, bringing the good news and carrying diseases everywhere.
Thank you so very much. Look at what it says. And they departed and went through the towns. They didn't get hung up
All right.
in one place.
All right. Go ahead, Pastor.
In other words, if one town does not receive you,
Move on.
God has other towns.
All right. All right.
He has some other towns, and here it is with rejection. We ask the question, why? And we should be asking, what's next?
All right. All right.
Not why didn't I get it, but Lord, what's next for me? Tell your neighbor, God always has another possibility.
Yes, he does.
God always has another job. God has another school. God always has another boo.
Yes, he does.
God always has another application. God always has another bank. God always has another opportunity. God always has another door. God is always doing something better that's stored up for you. Because he said the earth is mine, in the fullness thereof. Everything that moves, if one door closed, God got another door. God said, I'll open the windows of heaven, pour you out blessings that you wouldn't have room enough to receive. Could it be that the rejection was a sovereign will of God? Could it be that God is working behind the scenes, working things out for you? Could it be that the closed door was the hand of God? God had to reject you in order to redirect you.
Get off, God.
Now you can tweet this. God will break your heart so that he can blow your mind. Woo! Tell your neighbor, God will break your heart so he can blow your mind. They said I wouldn't make it. They said I wouldn't be standing here. But look at God. God can step in. And when God steps in, no weapon formed against you can prosper. I thank God for the ministry of rejection. I thank God for closed doors. Because God has something better. God has a better way, a better position. Don't worry about it. Just rejoice and praise God for the rejection. Because his weeping may endure for a night. But joy, joy, I said joy, unspeakable joy. It comes in the morning. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Their mount with wings as eagles, run and not be weary, walk and shall not fail. Know your worth. Know who you are and whose you are. Stand to your feet. Let's give God some praise.